Hi and welcome to Blender Clinic. Today we're going to be taking a look at Riggingnodes, a brand new add-on by a developer called Aquatic Nightmare. If you haven't heard about it, that's because there seems to be a very small community of people on Blender artists who are currently tinkering with it. It's not like geometry nodes and so on. It's not a part of Blender. It's an actual add-on. You have to download, install, and get to grips with it yourself. But it's important because, one, it's super powerful and really good fun. I'm really loving it. But also, I can see this being where Blender goes in the future with Riggingnodes. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they hired Aquatic Nightmare to implement this within the main Blender system, because it's... So with that said, let's go and install it. So this is where you need to go. gitlab.com/aquatic nightmare /rigging_nodes/hyphen/brancheth. And I'm going to be using the develop branch, which was an update released one day ago rather than the master, because I like all the new toys and features. So anyway, I've got that downloaded. So yeah, you can just click on there, download the zip. I've already done it, as you can see. So let's hide this. And yeah, in Blender, I will be installing it from my scripts folder. Date modified, where's the latest one? Riggingnodes develop, yes please, install add-on. Tickety box. Okay. Now the reason that's happened is because I had an earlier version of this installed, so let's just remove that. Close that down. And I haven't restarted Blender since. So obviously if you've got an older version of it, makes sense to remove it, uninstall it fully, close it down, and then start again, which is what I neglected to do. So I'm just going to double check that's gone. Riggingnodes, it's not in here. Install, pops up on the wrong window, and there it is again. Now I'm going to tick the box, tickety box, and as you can see, no errors this time. I'm just going to change that target flag to TGT because that's how I prefer it. Not that it makes any real difference, so you can leave those as they are. And now we have Riggingnodes installed, but there's no difference here, so what do? Well, let's just pull open another window, and you can see we've got a Riggingnodes panel now, which is great. So, from here, where do we go? Well, I'm just going to pause the video whilst I bring up some other files, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I think I'm just about ready. So first, I'm just going to show you what we're essentially going to be creating. And essentially, we're going to make the foot roll element of this leg. So this is, well, not this leg, but for a leg, but using a similar rigging style. So we've got an IK foot control, a foot heel roll, a toe pivot, manual toe, and yeah, that's it. I'm not going to be creating the spline arc for this in this tutorial, but that's roughly what we're going to be creating. Okay, so I've already created this once, but it was messy. It was really messy, and it took hours to show. So I'm going to create a new node structure. So that's how you create a new one. You just hit that button there, and then you name it. We're going to go new foot roll. And yeah, I guess we're going to just jump right in. So got the older version open in front of me on the other monitor, so if I'm just looking like that into the middle distance, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to actually copy some elements from this simply to save some time. And I'll explain them as I go. So here we go. Do that paste. There it is. So what have we got here? So what am I pasting in? So firstly, you need an execute node. So you mean to find a node, you just hit Shift A, type what you want. So execute. Execute node is like a big go button that you hit, and it will create your rig. It's the end of your sequence. Typically at the start of your sequence, you're going to need to create armature node. So we're going to do that. This is create armature again. Create armature. That's how you create it. Foot roll new. That's what we'll call our rig, and we'll put it in a collection called foot roll new. That's all we need to do. And then these are by default the layers that are actually visible. So we're going to leave all of them visible as we create stuff. And then what I've got over here, oops, are a bunch of object inputs. So it's input object, that's all that is, but these I've already renamed them, so it'll save me a little bit of time. So you can rename, we get the object input, we can just rename it over here and call it new name, and then you copy that and put it in the label, and you'll see here new name comes up. Now, one thing to bear in mind with these node systems is you can't use custom colors. I mean, you can, but they won't stick around because the custom colors are actually used to flag errors and so on and so forth. So just be aware of that. So I've got a bunch of these wee jobbies here. And I'm going to need to create some empties for them. So what we're going to be doing is, what I'm doing is actually creating some rigs for these like food monsters for a show that I'm working on. And there's just loads of them. So using rigging nodes allows me to basically design a node system and then just hit go with different variables and parameters and create rigs really quickly. That's the idea. That's why it's so powerful to me. So we've got this hot dog monster, which is sort of partially created here. Created by John Ball from Poke Studio. It will look a damn sight better once we're done with it. So what I'm going to do is create an empty, and I'm just going to put it to mark the hip position. So when you're creating these rigs, you can create them based on existing geometry, existing armatures. You could do it, create them based on the positions in a spline. I'm choosing empties because I think it's quite a visual thing and quite simple to, to understand what I'm doing. I'm creating empties at certain points. So the first one is the hip position. So I've marked where I want my rig to start coming down from. Then the knee position. I'm just selecting them here. And then we've got ankle position. And the ball of the foot position. Heel position. And the tippy toe. Okay, so now we've got these empties. And they are going to define the scale of our rig and where our rig is created, essentially. The other stuff I've got over here are bone shapes I've already created, and I know that I'm going to need in this rig, so they can live over there. The next thing we're going to want to do is I'm going to need to change some parameters about my rig, because when, well, actually, do you know what? Let's create a bone first and show you what I mean. Add bone. Okay, and I'm going to, well, let's take a good look at this. It's kind of the main node you need in rigging nodes. We've got the add bone node, so we're feeding the armature into that, and then the armature is going out to the execute node. So we're creating a chain, of nodes, and that's kind of important to realize. In fact, if I just hit set preview now, you can see we get this big old bone here because we haven't told it where to create it, so it's going by defaults. It's going from 0, 0, 0 to 0, 1, 0. That's the tail. That didn't make any sense, but I'm sure you kind of grasp what I'm saying. It's those are the default positions. So if I feed the hip position into that, you'll notice it won't work because the wrong kind of output and input. So what I need to do is get object property, and I'm going to feed this into the get object property. And you can see here we've got a bunch of options, but we don't have any outputs. So I'm going to add an output. And what I want is the location data. Location. And now I can feed the location information of this empty into the head position for our new bone. I can duplicate that get location, do the same for the knee position, feed it into the tail. If I set preview now, you'll see our bone now goes from our hip position to our knee position. We've generated a bone for the thigh, which is great. Okay, that's good. Problem is, this isn't set to being in front. Now, when you're rigging, you generally want to set the object to be in front. It's an option which is over here in the viewport display of a rig. Click in front. Now, super useful. Unfortunately, it's not there yet. So let's make that happen. Set object property and drop it in there. And I'm going to add an input and see if I can find it. Sometimes I just stare at these things. There's so many options. And yeah. Set preview. Did that work? Nope, I've got to tick it first. There we go, in front. So now you can see it overlays properly with we can see our bones through our geometry. Great stuff. Okay, so what else do I need to do? Well, we've got to create deformer bones. So what I'm going to do is create another bone. I'm just going to Shift D to duplicate that. And I'm going to take this time the tail position for this one, which is the knee position, feed it into the head. I'm going to run that down to the ankle position. We have another bone. Except that wasn't the ankle position. I must have misselected one of the empties. So that's empty 9. This is empty 3. And typically it's doing that. It does this thing where you feed something into it and it will actually create a duplicate of it to work with. It's quite annoying because it can be a little confusing, but that's what we're working with here. Set preview, there we go. So now that's at the ankle. That's what we wanted. And we're going to duplicate this again, and we're going to create another bone. And this time we're going to go from the tail of this, the ankle position, to the ball of the foot. You can see how unwieldy and messy this can get really fast. Tail position. Okay, so that now goes to the ball of the foot. And then we can go from the ball of the foot to the tippy toe. We're going to miss out the heel position for now. We don't need that in this. Yoink. Come on, you. Do as you're told. So there we go. We've now got a chain of bones. So what do we need to do now? Well, let's mark these out with a frame. We'll name the frame Deformer Bones. So those are our deformer bones. Now I'm going to... Actually, do you know what I'll do before I do anything else? I will take the bone shapes that I got earlier. Again, the bone shapes are just input objects. That's all it is. And I'm selecting meshes that I've created bone shapes with. So we've got one, for instance, here for deformer. This is my bone shape at def nested. So I have a bone system that I use that allows me to see visually what a bone does. So if a bone is a deforming bone, then it always has this particular bone shape. And that bone shape will nest inside other bone shapes so that they're all selectable when they're laid on top of one another. It's very important to my system of rigging. I recommend you adopt this system also. Add input shape. I'm just going to do this for all of these. And then we will run these nodes together. I'm just using Shift right mouse button to create redirects, so I can keep this fairly tidy. I don't think I'm going to succeed in keeping this tidy, because it's every single node tree I've done in Riggingnodes so far has become a sprawling mess very quickly. But there we go. Now we've got those plugged in, we can hit set preview, and you can see my bone shape has now overwritten everything. So I'm just going to hide my empties, but I no longer need to access them. So that's good. What do we need now? Well, we are going to need some mechanical target bones. So I'm going to Shift D? No. So box selecting would be Control Shift D to duplicate these with all their connections intact. Fortunately, I have kind of put them over the execute node. Let's get rid of that. Now I want mechanical bones, or target bones, I suppose. Target bones. Okay, so this is going to create a series of target bones in exactly the same position. So you can see there, that one's worked. I don't know why that one hasn't. So, aha. Again, I'm going to create a redirect. Now my mechanical bones are all going to be parented to each other. So the deformer bones are not parented to one another. But I want mechanical, but these target bones, we're going to call them target bones or mechanical bones. We should really figure that out now. Let's go parent. So we can add input over here, parent, or we could do it over here, parent. Okay, now we can feed the prior bone into the next bone. And that means that when we hit this button, that if I move this, then all the following bones will follow it. So they're parented now. What they aren't is named. They haven't been named yet. And maybe we'll get to that in a minute, but kind of just figuring my structure out. So, creating bones. Now what do we want to do? Let's take a quick look at our charts. Yeah, so we want to make constraints now that will make sure that we want our deformer bones to copy the transformations of our target bones. My brain. So I'm just going to type in add constraint, and I think I'll feed this into that, and I'm going to copy my phi first, and we'll input a target and target subtarget, I think. I'm not great at doing that, so undo, redirect so I can do that, and then we're going to feed this bone into here. And what we can do now is we can check our bone, set preview, and see if it comes up with a constraint on it. And unfortunately, it has not. I wonder why. Just going to tidy some of this up. I don't know if that's tidied it up or not, but there you go. Certainly trying to get stuff out of the way. Right, so we've got this bone, and I wanted to have a copy transform constraint. And let's just give it a name. So I'm not going to name all of them just yet because, yeah, death thigh. And then we'll call this target thigh. Normally, rather than naming stuff like this, I like to create a system, a string system that will basically put together a bunch of different suffixes, prefixes and words to create my names for me. And that way they're always consistent. I can't cock it up, and I'm very good at cocking stuff up. So yeah, I try to take that out of my, that ability out of my own hands. So foot roll new, def thigh, target, foot roll new, target thigh. That seems reasonable to me. The reason it's not doing anything is it's not plugged in yet because I'm a ninny. Alright, ninny muggins. There we go. Again, just tidying up my space. That looks good to me. Let's set preview and have a look. Copy transforms, copying by target. And in world space, that's all we wanted. There we go. So now I'm going to create another one. And this time I will plug in the next bone. And again, I'm going to have to do a redirect to plug the target in there. I wonder actually if it just automatically gets the target. Shall we unplug that and find out? And we'll plug this bone in to the sub-target. And we'll hit preview. No, it doesn't understand that without the target armature being defined, much like in vanilla Blender rigging. Great, okay. Duplicate again, and one more time. Now I appreciate that this is a bit slower than regular rigging, which in itself is fairly slow, but you know, there's something about this methodology that I just love. It's a really nice way to work. It's that just, yes, I want that to work with that and that to do with that. It's not always the best for experimenting. So obviously I've built this rig many times before, and you know, manually, and once in Riggingnodes. So it, you know, I don't know if I design rigs this way necessarily, but once you've designed a rig and you're like, yeah, that's the rig I'm using from now on, there's something nice about that. So great, we've got these bones doing their thing. So if I rotate that, then great, we've got an armature essentially. So that's exciting. What we are going to need to do is actually with these bones, we need to put use deform on them. So use deform, because these are deforming bones. They're the only deforming bones in the rig, so we need them to be deformable. We need them to be deforming bones so that they will do their job. So there's ways to do the naming system where there's a string operator, which is great, and string. We're going to need both of those. There's also a name, create name panel, which is great because it allows you to add prefixes, suffixes, and so on. Let's take a look at this first. Base name. So we've got base name, prefix, suffix. And what I won't be doing with this, because of the way I like to work, I won't be adding .l or .r. just at least not this phase in the thing, because what I like to do is just create the bones where they are, and then I'll add the suffix later manually, because that's just how I'm currently working. I don't know that it's the best way of doing stuff. So if we have a string suffix, prefix, so it's going to be death, and then the original name is phi. In fact, let's do this capitals, please. That'd be nice if there was a all caps button for these things. And we'll just plug that in and see if it works. Foot roll. Sorry, name death. Yeah, okay, so if your base name, maybe. Def.phi. I mean, I was going to hope for underscores to separate them, but let's let it do its thing. Yeah, I normally go about this in a far more pedantic way, where I'm creating complex string sort of concatenation systems to do this for me. And I've just realized that, you know, life is too short. So let's relax and just do it the easy way and use the name operator thing here. So what we can do is do all that. And obviously this is more useful when you've got more complicated systems. Naming systems, and that might come in quite handy later on. Okay, so now, that's interesting. Multiple bone. So what I'm clearly doing is the most inefficient way of doing this. There's got to be a smarter way of doing it, and I can see that there's a way of doing multiple bones there, but I daren't deviate to experiment at this point because, hey, we'll be here all week if I start experimenting. But what I can do with this now, just adjust these so they're nice and neat. I'm going to select those, Control-Shift-D, and bring them over here. And then I'm going to Control-right swipe to take this. And I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to change this to meh. I don't know why I went slightly scouse there. Let's get rid of that, we don't need it. And we've got the same name chain going on here. And it wasn't supposed to be mech, was it? It was supposed to be target. But it's so easy to change all of those bones now because of this system. So if we have a change of heart, lovely. So now we've got named bones, parented correctly, with copy transforms for our system. So I think that's a good moment to pause, don't you? Cheers. I've had my unregulated soft drink, and we shall continue. We need to actually put layers onto this. So I'm going to create integer nodes. So I'm going to add an input for a layer. See, if I'd done this at the start, I would not have to be doing... If I'd done this to the initial node. But I didn't. So, tough. And then we can... Again, we can add some more noise to our system. I mean, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to add extra nodes. I'm just going to say the deformers go on layer 1. What you could do is plug that integer node in and give yourself the option to change this later. But I'm fairly consistent with my layer system, as in like what layer I want what kind of bones on. I'll always have deformers on layer 1. And, you know, my target's on layer 2. So I'm going to leave that just to keep it less messy because I don't feel I need that functionality. What is good though, if you've got like this open here and you want to edit stuff, you have the node editing options over here. And if you've like put something like layer on and you don't want it anymore, you can just click that X and get rid of it. I just had a problem where and I was using an earlier version of Riggingnodes and there was a deprecated system called something about like remove shear. And they've removed it from the current version of Riggingnodes, but it was breaking my system. So I had to go in, find it where I'd enabled it and just click that X to get rid of it. So just so you know, that is there should you need it. Yes, should you need it. Blah, 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 blah. Right. So I want to create some mechanical bones. I don't think I need the leg ones anymore. So I'm refining the rigging system as I go. So that's an interesting idea. Don't recommend it. Let's tell you what I could do with these empties being visible again. Oh, we've got snapping on, have we? There we go. That would explain that weird behavior. Just going to move those down. So that's adjusted our rig as well, which is good. That's kind of what the whole purpose of this is. In fact, you know, let's do that again. That's more like it. So the ankle is more in position with where I'd expect it to be. So now I need to create the same space as this target bone. Actually, you know, yeah, no, I'm just going to duplicate that and that. And then I'm going to have to use Alt-P to get them out of the frame that they were in. We can continue our the node's journey from here up to there. Das ist gut, ja. And we're going to need another one of these. This one actually will be MCH for Mac. Plop. Hope I got that in the right node. And I've buggered up. I've copied the wrong one. I meant to get the foot bone. Instead, I got the thigh bone, so I'm going to have to rename this, and I'm going to have to pull the foot bone information from here. So again, I'm just going to do a redirect. I'm going to pull that right along. Then I'm going to neaten this up. Oops. Now I know that there's a duplicate bone function in here, but I haven't figured out how to use it. And again, I don't want to go exploring these options of better sort of thing whilst I'm doing a video. And I keep thinking, you were supposed to do that before you started recording the stupid bloody video. But, you know, here we are. And again, you know, this is a long video, and I do appreciate how long it's going to take. But it's a big subject, and it's tough. But it's you know, I think it's worthwhile. So there you go. So we've got this mech, okay, foot, prefix or suffix ik is going to be our suffix for that. And yeah, now we need to create some more bones. So we've got, and we need a different bone shape. Because we're going to need all of these in a minute. So I tell you, I'll bring these over here temporarily. We're going to move them back over with the other variables at the end, so that when we create this in a nice neat group, then those variables will be, you know, external to the group. That probably doesn't make sense as I'm whittering on, but it will make sense. And I've got this mechanical bone shape. It's like a spanner sort of shape that I use for mechanical bones. We'll plug that in there, create it, and now you can see another bone is in this nested system. So we've got a deforming bone, we've got a target bone, and we've got a mechanical bone, and they all sit happily nested on top of one another. That's nothing to do with rigging node, that's just my patented visual system. Okay, so where were we? So I've got a mechanical bone. Great, okay, what's the function of this bone? Who knows? Who knows? Right, it is parented to a mechanical foot roll. So it's parented to a bone that doesn't exist yet. So we've got to carry on making more bones. So let's just duplicate this and we will, let's delete that standard nonsense. Calling this one foot roll. There we go. Okay, so we've got that. This one will also require the same shape. Nearly deleted that line. So where's this foot roll bone going to be created? It's going to be created at the heel, and I want it to go directly up. So we will get the heel location, which we haven't used yet. I wonder if there's a way you can just drag and release to a thingy node. Again, I've got to actually use the get property from that before it will actually do what I want it to do. And we'll just plug it into any of these that will take it, because we can't see which one's which, and then we'll reconnect it in a moment. Oh, you absolute sausage. So that's going into the head, which is good. That's actually one we wanted. And then we will, basically we're going to have to use a little bit of vector maths. So if we do it, if we leave it as is, then you'll see it'll just go off wonky. It'll go from there, and it's sort of leaning towards the center. So it's going to its default position, which is 0, 1, 0, which is somewhere over there, which isn't what we want. We want to use a math node, and then we need to define this is a vector math node, or maths node, if you're British like I am. I say British, I'm Welsh. I don't really... Whatever. That's a controversial and complicated subject, but... right, anyway. So what we're doing, we're feeding this, the same information into the head, we're feeding into the tail via a maths node, where we're going to say add on the z-axis 1. Actually, we're going to say 0.05. Maybe that'll do it. And so what it's doing is it's going to start at the point we've given it, and then add 1 on the z-axis, so it will just go up. So it's relative to its position. It will, you know. So much waffle, and you know, it's hot in here. It's really hot in here. So I mean, nonsense should be expected from me. So there we go. We can see that that is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and that's great. But we actually, I told like we want a different bone shape to that. I'm going to also make this smaller. So there we go. This, I would like it to look more like a cog, because it's a mechanical rotating bone. It's not. I've got two kinds of mechanical bones. I've got the little ones which I make look like cogs, which basically sit in a position and they're not supposed to reach anywhere, but you know. And then I've got these spanner shapes, which is like mechanical bones that actually have to go somewhere, typically stretching to somewhere. So I need another bone shape. That one's the anchor. This one's the other mechanical bone shape. There we go. So, come on, do your job. There we go. Right, so this one, I think that this one actually is parented to that one. So maybe I should swap the order in which they're created. So let's just check that on my Blue Peter model, as in one I made earlier. Foot IK, and it is parented to mechanical foot roll. Okay, so yeah. So what we want to do is swap these around. Why is that broken? Armature is not connected and not valid. There we go. I missed the connection. The connection is there. That is good. And now I need to make a parent for it. Lovely. So now if I move this, that one follows. Excellent. Okay, so I mean, I suppose I should have gone through the theory of what a foot roll and how a foot roll does what a foot roll does. But honestly, I don't know that I fully understand it myself. As in, I understand it, but I have to pick it apart every time to do it, which is one of the reasons I'm so pleased to have this rigging node system that I can sort of put it to bed. You know, I can put everything I know about, you know, I can put my whole foot roll system into this, and then I don't need to worry about it again for some time at least. And it's all laid out like a blueprint or a schematic for a rigging system. And that way I can pick it apart again, which is why it's so important to get it actually really, you know, looking real tidy, because you don't want to have to struggle to read your blueprints, do you? Anyway, I am waffling and we are running out of time. So let's look at this. We've got mech foot roll. Oh, that was foot roll 2. So I've parented the wrong flipping bone. So what we're going to do, we're going to keep on adding to this mess. This one will be... That one's mech foot roll 2. This one's just mech foot roll. Okay, and this one needs to go from the tail position of this. We'll go into its head, and then it's going to go to its heel, which is this one. There we go, that's what we wanted. And this one is also going to have that spanner style bone shape. Right, this one is parented to foot roll 2, as we thought it might be. This one is the parent of that one. Set preview. So if I rotate that, there we go. That's what we want. Okay, so them's the mechanical bones done. Oh no, there's another one. There's the anchor bone as well, which again stems from the heel. A foot anchor. Okay, and unsurprisingly, it has its own bone shape because, you know, why make things simple? I mean, actually, to be fair to myself, this is simplifying it. It's thinking about future you and being kind to future you and letting future you know you care and that they understand what mess you've wrought, I suppose. As you can see, that's a big anchor-shaped bone, and we will put it at the heel, which I think is coming from here. And we want it to be another vector math node. So I'm just going to duplicate this, and we'll zero that off and take this to 0.5. Oh, 0.05. There we go. And now we've got this anchor bone. Now the anchor bone is there to hold position for the IK bone. So we can put a variety of different constraints on it. That's what the anchor bone's for. The main IK control will be parented to it, and it eventually you can put, like, you know, once this system's created, you can put your own child of constraints to that to suit your own needs. Right. Also, I've been making all these mech bones on layer 2. I want them all to be on layer 3. They're mechanical bones. Keep them separate. And whilst we're doing that, we should also create a frame. Damn thing. Why did that not work? There we go, it's all in the frame. These are mechanical bones. We'll change the colour of this. I believe it works for frames, but the colour changing works for frames anyway. I'll leave these variables aside. I mean, we can further tidy this up, but I think I would be here literally for an eternity if I start getting too OCD about these nodes. That said, it would be nice to have this legible. Dear God, what horrors I have wrought. Oh, it's not snapping anymore. No wonder everything's beginning to look a little wonky again. A little tidier. Okay. Now I have mechanical bones. Finally, nearly there. We need to have some control bones. So let's hide the empties on that. Index. There we go. Right. So we need a pivot toe control, a main foot IK, a toe control, and a roll control. So we'll start with the roll control. Belt's a little tight. And this foot roll 2 is essentially the same bone. So I'm just going to hit that, make sure it's updated properly. So we're going to take foot roll 2, Shift Control D, Alt P. And now we've got all of its connections, everything else, but it's not in the same frame. Okay, so we'll do a little slice through here so we can get all the nodes clarified, which one's which. I'm happy with the head and tail because it's the position is the most important thing. What I don't need is the name. But I will take this and pop it in the name slot and say so it should be control foot roll, and we want a prefix of control, CTRL. Okay, we now need a bone shape for it. These remaining bone shapes are going to be all controls, I feel. And we've got the bone shape rotation Z. That'll do. And now we want to plug this one in here, this one in here, and again, slicey slicey. Excellent. Now you can see when we hit execute, we get this foot roll control. Then we're going to create another bone. This will be, again, duplicate that, plug it in. This one will be our actual foot IK control, and I think it's going to be the same as the anchor. We'll just have it as control foot. I suppose we could put IK if we want to be posh. And yeah, again, we're going to need a bone shape. So I've got this bone shape for it. And where's our anchor bone? We will shamelessly steal these. And what else do we need? Well, I don't know. I don't know what else we need. Let's just hit that so we can see it. And you can see it there. That's fantastic. That's doing a good job, except they're both a little bit too big, aren't they? So we're just going to scale them down. There we go. So now we have our foot control. We can hide these empties again now. We're not really using them. So actually, this would be a great time to save. Let's save it. Haha. Okay, so hopefully not too much longer now. We do have to parent everything and stick modifiers onto it as well. But this is actually, as shockingly, it's a lot neater than the last version, which was just horrific. Okay. There's still time for me to make it horrifically messy though, so, you know, we'll see. Again, name, toe. And we want this at the point of toe. From, yeah, so we'd want it to be exactly the same as the toe control. So it goes from the ball. Damn, how did I do that? That was really annoying. All right, so now we need the shape for that. Nope. Yep. Might as well bring this one over as well. So there it is. I feel like it could be scaled up a little bit, but I'm not too worried. We're going to add a shape scale to it. And maybe just dial that in to 2.5. There we go. So now our toe control's a bit bigger. Great. Okay. Toe pivot. God, here we go. Again, we're just doing the same old process. Right, let me just check how I did the pivot toe before, because I can't remember where it stemmed from. Okay, so the pivot toe is going back to the heel from the tippy toe. Good to know. I would have forgotten that. So the head is at the tippy toe, and the heel, which is around here, I think. Heel position, yeah. We can drag that to the toe. And as you can see, now we've got this mahusive thing. Actually, it looks like we didn't want it from the tippy toe, we wanted it from the end of the anchor. So let's do that. End of the anchor of the foot IK. Control foot roll, control foot IK. That's what we want. So we want it from the tip of this, which handily enough is just overhead. So we'll run that down from there to there. And let's see if that goes better. It does, but we need to turn that scale shape off. In fact, we can turn it down to about 0.5. Great, so now we've got this control for the pivot. We've got the IK control. We've got the foot roll control. I think the last control we need a knee pull. Again, we've got a unique shape of this. And we're going to parent this to the foot control. I know that much. And bum 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 bum. Come on, brain. Don't give in now. We're so close to the end. Plug the string into there. Knee. Pull. And what we're going to do is we are going to get the knee position from earlier. Here's the last thing we did with the knee. Shin. That would start from the knee, wouldn't it? So yeah. Okay, so that all of those need tidying up. I'm not going to do that now. I'll do that later in my own time. But yeah, we'll have a look at this knee position. That one. I want that one. And we'll run it over. Didn't hit the right socket. That looks like we made it. So yeah, going from the knee. And this one's going to have to go for a vector math node as well. I'm going to duplicate and then Alt-P to release it from its frame. And we'll bring it over. And we'll stick it in there. And what we're going to do now, I guess, is actually we'll create a second one of these. So I think if we go on the y-axis minus 0.5, and then on this axis we go, well, tell you what, we'll plug that one in a second. We'll figure that distance out momentarily. So now we can see our knee pole is being created here, but we want it over here. So we could multiply, actually, and we'll multiply this one by 1, this one by 1, and this one by 4. And then if we go into edit mode, you'll see that this, so we've got it at, yeah, we'll just put that, and that way we've got this knee pole which is actually facing our knee, and that knee pole control will do very well for us, I hear. Excellent. And that's parented to the foot. That's good. That's what we want. So that's all our bones created. That is a huge relief. So now we just need to make sure that all the parenting is correct. And we need to add modifiers. So I'm just going to take another break and then we'll continue. So let's get the rest of this done. So one thing I definitely need is constraint, and we'll add this in last, and we'll make it a kinematic constraint or inverse kinematic constraint. So this is the IK constraint basically for the whole system, and it's going to go on our target shin. So we'll pull it over here for a minute, find our target shin bone. These are mechanical bones, aren't they? So actually, yeah, we'll actually put it on our mechanical bone, mechanical shin. Oh no, we didn't do a mechanical shin, did we? We did it slightly different this time. Pull this over here. Where's that shin bone? And then we want this to have the input for a target, sub-target, and we want to be able to choose chain length, pole target, pole sub-target, pole angle. Definitely want those. So we'll just do those for now. And this is going to... Right, this is going to be pointing at the foot IK control. So, and also we need a knee pole for this. So shrink these down, make them a little neater, tidying as we go. There's a toe pivot, there's the knee pole. So our knee pole will go into here. And our sub-target is, yes, it's mechanical foot. Okay. Which was here, I think. Yes, this one. So we're going to drag this point over to here, to the sub-target. That'll do, I think. Okay, so also we haven't put our control bones into a frame yet. We should probably do that. That'll do. Whatever, at this point, anything will do. Just please God let me stop. Okay, so there we go. So we've got the target is the foot IK bone and the knee pole is the pole target. Now we need to add a pole angle to this, and the way we do this is, where's our angle? Oh, there's our chain length. We need to put that up to 2, I think. Yeah. The way that we add the pole angle, we need to actually. The way it works is I'll show you. If I put in 90 degrees into this, we go la-di-da, click it, it won't be right. It's coming out 180 degrees even though we're putting 90 in. The reason for this is it's converting to radians and it's just going to the maximum number available to it. So we need, can I remember where this is, but it's degrees to radian. No, it is in here somewhere. That's the thing. So maybe it's in. Is it in the maths section? There's rad to degrees, degrees to rad. So what we can do is we can just take this math node, plug it directly into a pole angle. We'll call this, say, 90. It's a float as well, just in case you're interested or couldn't see. Set preview. There it is, 90 degrees. So now, if I were to move this foot, shit goes wrong. And I think the reason for that is we've got some parenting here we didn't want. Oh, and that's interesting. The rotation's definitely wrong. Look at that. It should be minus 90. Yeah. So we've got this mechanical bone is probably parented to something which it shouldn't be. No, that's parented correctly. Maybe it's the target bone having a parent. Let's find the target bone. These are deformers, these are targets. We'll unparent that for now. This is my own fault for changing the formula before doing a tutorial and not testing it. So, right, bear with. We will fix this. It is what we do. So we've got a target foot bone which has no parent. So I know that none of my controls have any parenting done. So I know that the toe pivot, my foot roll control, needs to be parented to this pivot bone. I don't know that I can run that directly backwards to this, but I'm willing to give it a shot. No, you cannot do that. So I need to set bone property. I'll put it over here. Again, we've lost our names. Let's just go up here. I want that one. And yeah, we're going to add inputs to it. And the parent is what we want. And we're going to give this a parent of a toe pivot. And then we can set that to go again, and everything's fixed. Happy days. So that's parented to the toe pivot. This one's the foot control is parented to the anchor. That one works because obviously the anchor exists before it in the chain. Now, you might want to actually create everything in the order that it's parented. So once you've got the chain, you sort of go, okay, well, this one's parented to that, so we'll create it with the highest in the hierarchy first. The reason I've done it this way is I like to organize my stuff in, in the sets of bones. It just helps me, but it might be confusing for some people. And I appreciate that because, I'm an odd boy. And that means we've got our foot roll control is parented over here. So maybe we'll hide the parent on this so we know that it's dealt with. Yeah, get rid of that. We've got a parent control toe. Who's that parented to? That's to the foot target bone. Okay, so that's should be a straight thing to pull over. Target foot. Right, so that's got a parent. Now we need the toe pivot. Who is that parented to? And it's parented to the control foot. Okay, so that's for control foot IK now. Lovely. Okay, so that's got a parent, that's got a parent, it's all got parents. Everybody gets a parent. Now we need to go to our foot anchor. We know that doesn't get a parent because it will get child of constraints after this setup. So that's what that's intended for. The mechanical foot IK has a parent. Foot roll has a parent. Like foot roll 2 does not have a parent, but it must have a parent. It needs a parent. And that parent will be the toe pivot. Who knew? Who saw that one coming? Let's add a constraint. Not a constraint. Fool. Set. Bone property. Add input parent. And we'll just plug this into here. I need to tidy this up a bit. It's beginning to get a bit sprawly, isn't it? Again, the order of this doesn't matter so much. It's just that it has to come after the bones have been created. So those are both parenting to the pivot. It's all just tidy up. Okay, that's beginning to work. So we can see this is beginning to work. Things are disconnecting and doing what they've got to do. I need to turn snapping off, but that is good. We have some foot funkiness working. Let's just check. One last check on the parents. So messy, despite my best efforts. The target foot doesn't have a parent. That doesn't surprise me. It should be... yeah, no parent VU. So we'll get rid of that so we know that it's not supposed to be set. Target shin does have a parent, which is for target thigh. Target thigh doesn't have a parent, and that makes sense to me because that would be going to a hip bone. So we'll get rid of that as well. None of these are parented because they're deformer bones and they need to be free floating and using copy constraints, which we've already set up here. Right, so now we need to just make sure we've got all our constraints set up. Only the toe control gets a constraint of the controls. And I'm going to stop making annoying noises with my math. And yeah, so anyway, so I kind of sort of zoned out there for a minute. I'm just like, what's going on? I'm adding a copy rotation constraint between the control toe and control toe pivot being created. And this is going to copy the mechanical foot roll. We want to turn on those, mix mode, and target space, and oh, I missed one. Owner space. So these can be set to local. This is before original. Need to open this up a bit so we can just tick copy X. And now we just need to connect it to the bone that it's going to copy rotation from, which is the mechanical foot roll. There she is. Did we not give that a sub-target? Thank you. Damn it. I did it to the wrong side. Now we should be good. Right, let's execute that and just check that that constraint is as we would like it to be. Yeah, that all looks good to me. Okay, great. Now what? That's all of the controls set up. Now we need to set up the mechanical bones. So we want a copy rotation of control foot roll and a limit rotation. Rotation constraint there, limit rotation constraint there, and we'll add in our limit rotation because it's nice and easy. It doesn't have a lot of dependencies. Limit X, maximum minimum X, effect transform, and owner will be in local space. That's good, that's good, that's good. Limit X, set the minimum to -90. Except we can't do that, can we? Because it probably need to be in radians. But we'll check that again in a second. Actually, let's not do that to ourselves. Let's just get it right first time. Maths. There's nowhere to put it down. Degree to radian. Okay. And then our copy rotation constraint needs those. Mix is replaced, so that's default, so we shouldn't need that, but we'll do it anyway. Target and owner. Space. There we go. We'll change those spaces to local space. We'll keep that as replace. We'll tick all of our copy boxes. And then we will run our bone into it. This is for the mechanical foot roll 2. Okay. Now we need to tell it what bone it's actually copying. foot roll, control foot roll. Which is all the way back there. But fortunately, comes over to here. Okay, so that's that done. Let's just check it. Foot roll, control foot roll, limit rotation -90. Oh, didn't tick effect transform. Not actually sure how important that is, but let's do it anyway. Oh, that's not looking bad. It's beginning to do the heel roll, which is great. Just means that we've got a couple of constraints missing just yet, so let's go to our... No, not that one. The mech foot roll. This one. This one's going to need some constraints. Again, copy and limit. So I'm just going to take all of this and duplicate it. And now this is the mech foot roll, so we need to, again, find it and plug it in. Okay, so some mechanical foot roll, that's good, and now we need the control foot roll, is what it's actually copying. So again, we can do this one. As for the actual rotation, it's supposed to be the maximum is 90. Just limiting the X. Effect transforms not ticked on that one. And what else? We're just copying the X on local space, and it is replacing, and that's that. Okay. Oh, now it's all broken. So limit is not working because it still has a value in it. And that limit is crucial to what we're doing. It's not there just make things pretty. Basically, one needs to, a bone needs to stop rotating at its maximum extension so another one can take over, and that's how that whole rocker bone thing works. So that's good. That is now working. What isn't working is our target bone. This needs to be copying our toe bone. God, I said that like Michael Gove then. Disgusting. Yeah, copy the control foot toe. Okay. And because of that, we've lost our names again, so we need to turn this on so I can actually see what I'm doing. These are mechanical bones. We don't want mechanical bones. We want these bones. Target toe. And that's that. All right. All right, all right, all right. All right, all right. And it's going. There we go. Lovely. So finally, it looks like it might be complete. So we can rotate from the heel both directions. The toe pivot works. This IK isn't quite right. Yeah, the IK isn't bending. And that could be something very simple. So you need, with IK bones, you need a slight kink in the line. Otherwise, stuff just doesn't bend. There we go. So now we have that working. Our knee pole is working. And all of that's working. So that's great. That's fantastic. That's exactly what we needed. So let's save it. We have a few tiny steps left to go. Like if I were to, like just to demonstrate how this works, I'm going to parent armature deform, quickly throw some weight paint on this just so you can see it doing its thing. And I need to turn off the mirror modifier because we only have one leg. And just reveal, I'm just using bone layers add-on there in case you're not familiar with it. It's the greatest add-on of all time. Appreciate it's not a good weight paint job, but it's fine. There, it's horrible, wasn't it? God, what a noise. So there we go. So now we can see our foot rig at work. You know, obviously if there were some more geometry here for this to play with, it would work better. But that's it. That's the rig is created. I can hide all my empties now. I'm going to save, and then I'm going to select all of the variables that we've punched into this thing. In fact, I'm not going to take the string variables, just these bone shapes and empties. And maybe I'll create armature. Leave those string variables where they stand. And praying that I got all of my variables, because I don't want to spend too long double checking myself, chickadee checking myself. Why can I not zoom out further than that? I'm going to go B, box select everything. Missed some. B to box select everything, all of it except the execute node and these variables that we want to keep separate. We're going to go Control G, I think. Takes a second. Well, it takes more than a second apparently. Who knew? There we go. And it's gone green because now we're inside the group that we just created, which is all well and good because we need to organize this group input node which has been created for us. So let's have a look at our group input node. I can't tell what any of this stuff is yet, so I'm going to tab out of a group. Then I'm going to select all of this nonsense, bring it down. Okay, so the first node we have, which goes into this, is armature. Spell it right. Oh my god. Here we go. So we've got an armature socket. Also, we should probably name this thing. That might help. Let's call it Leggy Weg. Leggy Weg Factory. For making leggy wegs. In case you hadn't gathered that from the nonsense I was spewing. Right, so the next one is hip position. I'm sure there's a way to get these to automatically recognize what's being plugged into them and name appropriately, but again, do I want to go exploring features? I do not. I'm just copying their names, going over to the appropriate socket. Swap those around a little bit. Okay. So there we have it. As I've said, you can actually delete these and just plug the empties directly in. So I'm just going to save this first. Delete those. Okay, so those are plugged in. And as you can see, it's regenerated our rig quite happily. So yeah, you can plug your bone shapes in, do all that. If you wanted, you could pull the bone layers, the numbers for the bone layers out to here, which would be a great idea, so that you can you expose the bone layer numbers as integers and plug those in. That way you can change it up front. I'm not going to bother. Frankly, it's been a long day. Hopefully this has been useful to you. But yeah, let's just tell you what I'll do. When with this system, the problem I find is even if you rename the system, so we could change this, we could protect it, we could, try. You can't. Basically, when I click go on that again, even if I move all the positions around, it's not going to create a new armature. It's just going to change this one. So now I'm done with this, and I'm happy with it. I'm going to create another armature. Might as well scale that bone down there. It's a bit much. And I'm just going to take this and I'm going to join it. Oh, let's snap. Cursed world origin. selection to cursor. Yeah. So I'm just going to grab this armature we've just created and I'm going to join it to that armature. Make it visible, and those bones will exist there now, which is great. And then I can grab the empties, pull them over, let's say, yeah, come on, there you go. I can mirror this. I'm just going to pull these over to here, and then I can create a whole new bone system. But this time I'll go in, I'll select all my bones, I'll go Control F2, and I will add set name suffix .r to all of the bones. And actually I'll do that with this one as well. .l. Except that one doesn't want to be a .l, does it? Oh, you flipping clown, Christopher. Did you see the deliberate mistake I just made? Eagle-eyed viewers will notice that I had the object selected in the renaming panel. So selected all bones, suffix .r, click. Now the bones are being renamed, not the armature, which is what I wanted. Select all to bones.l. They've all been renamed, not the armature, just as we required. I can join those together. I can go and make some more legs. I mean, if you're rigging Sleipnir, that was fun. Sleipnir is the Nordic seven-legged horse or something that Odin rides. Yeah, this would be a useful tool for rigging Sleipnir. So, creating multiple sets of bones like that is, I mean, impractical when you think about the fact that you could just duplicate the bones. But what you might want to do is create something like some nightmare fuel. Nope, that was the wrong empty. I do hate that it duplicates the empties and creates confusion when none should exist. So there we go. Only problem there is typically the knee pole's gone a bit crazy. So I think there's a kink there that I'm going to have to work out. But that seems fine now. And yeah, so now we've got this nightmare leg, or maybe it's going to have really long toes. There we go. Obviously I have to go back in and correct that pole angle. But that's something you have to do anyway with these sorts of things. And yeah, I think what I might have to do as well is create a variable for the size of the foot, because that toe, the end of this bone should be, surpassing the tip toe. So that's something I'll have to look into. I'm not going to fix it now because, frankly, this has been, I mean, if you've stuck with me through this entire tutorial, you deserve some sort of Medal of Valor, frankly. That was painful and tedious, but hopefully you can see the value in creating something like this. And likewise with that, because I paired it with this, I turned off the in front option. annoying. But if I very quickly go to weight paint mode, rigging, something straight out of a horrible dream. Great, but all those controls work real nice. And yeah, and now next time I go to create a character that is straight out of someone's horrific culinary nightmares, it's not going to be a problem to create legs because it's a click of a button. Okay, I think that I'm going to have to call it there. As you can hear, my phone's pinging away in the background, so clearly I have responsibilities to see to. I might have to go and throw myself in a very cold shower. It's absolutely roasting hot today. But yeah, Riggingnodes is an absolutely awesome add-on, and I genuinely hope it gets into master in Blender, because you know it's one of these things. It needs to be maintained, it needs to be kept up to date, it needs to be pushed, because this is a fantastic way to create very complicated systems. And you know, to modify this, it's all there in a blueprint for you to just go, oh, I can see where the problem is, or you know, something's not happening, and just build it in. It's not the best for experimentation, because quick iteration is kind of a, you know, the name of the game when you're trying to experiment in, you know, in rigs. But you know, for the mass creation of those rigs, I mean, it's pretty vital. Not to sort of belabor the point, but I mean, prior to doing so, this is a character for Ungameland, which is a pilot that which I'm producing and directing with. I'm not producing, sorry. I'm directing and animating and rigging on for Poke Studio, which is John Ball's company. And you know, we've got to create just an army of these little monsters. And whilst this rig system is quite simple to tweak, I use a spline-based system for my limbs, which I'll show you another time. I'll build that into this rig in the coming weeks. But it takes forever to set up and takes forever to tweak. It is absolutely just so painful to do. For every character, it just takes so long, but the results are great. It's a really powerful rig, so we want that, but we want it for all of these characters. And how the heck am I going to do it? Then Riggingnodes came along, and suddenly I've got a real shot at being able to create rig armies of these really diversely sort of proportioned characters. You know, some of them are hot dogs, some of them are slices of cake, some of them are pies, some of them are pizzas, some of them are bananas. Everyone's a different shape. So I need this very versatile system to build these characters. And then this just turned up one day on Blender Artists, and I couldn't be more delighted. But I mean, in the same time as just before doing this, I was asked to create characters for Blue Zoo, to rig some characters for one of their latest Blender shorts, and in fact 2 of their shorts. So in total, I had to create 4 characters for them, plus a bunch of objects and whatnot. But those 4 characters were so similar in the structure of their rigs, but it was so hard to set up. The reason being was that the rigs that I create, these spline-based rigs, are really hard to tweak. It's really painful to tweak them. But if I'd had this, then it would have made it so much simpler. And when you're troubleshooting, you go, oh, I need to make an amend to the rig. Well, that would be far easier to click a button, update the system, click a button on each of them, and it's updated, rather than having to go in and troubleshoot it, fix it in one, then go back, troubleshoot it and fix it in the other, and hope that you've committed identical fixes. Do you see where I'm going with that? It would have been so much easier. I've got a couple of gigs coming up now where I'm going to be rigging more characters, which are no doubt also going to be based on the same sort of spline-based system that I tend to favour. And it's just going to be so much easier if I can get my little rigging factory together. Anyway, on that note, I'll bid you adieu. If you stuck with me again, wow. remarkable tolerance of what is a very long tutorial, and I'm making ever longer the more I sit here and witter. Go and download Riggingnodes, give it a try, build some stuff, because it is absolutely mind-alteringly good. And yeah, I've been Chris McFall for Blender Clinic. Thank you. Catch you next time.